Hi, it's Donna Rae of Oceanside Farms. It's the summer of 2020, and it's with gratitude that we share our video interview of Carrie Restino and her wonderful crew at Homer Hilltop Farm. We'll see their pack station and they'll generously share some tips and tools for packaging produce. We hope it's inspiring to you. It surely was inspiring to us, and we appreciate their sharing. Take it away, Carrie.
I'm Carrie Restino, and this is Homer Hilltop Farm. We've been in production. This tunnel went up 9 years ago, but we've really only been doing commercial vegetable production for maybe the last 5-6 years. We sell a variety of vegetables. We have a CSA, we have a lot of greens production, and we also have a peony farm, which we've sort of transferred into doing bouquets for grocery stores and also at the market with a mix of flowers and the peonies. So let's see, and then we do wholesale greens production for the grocery store here in town, and then farmers market obviously as well. Yeah, okay. So we had a pretty antiquated pack shed for quite a few years, and this spring, we added another section on it and also put in a floor, which I highly recommend. We didn't feel like the farm was producing enough revenue yet to justify a big concrete floor building, new construction, which would cost thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, but we're trying to move in the direction of more efficiency. So the floor is, just a basic floor with plywood, but I needed some way to keep it dry. So I bought the cheapest linoleum that you could buy and put that on there, and hopefully, it'll keep things dry enough that the floor will last, 5 years, by which time perhaps we'll have the concrete floor option in our. So it's all about staging up in, the right scale for the farm. You invest too much, and it's going to take you 20 years to get that money back. So we put the floor in, and I thought a lot about how to design this space so that there was enough room, because the way we were working before, when we were bagging, we were all like bumping into each other, and so I thought a lot about the flow of how things were going to go, and I drew little diagrams that showed, where people would be. So I thought about where stuff would come in, how we would bring the veggies in one place, one way, and we wouldn't be in the way of each other for that. And then, that the process would go bubbler, spinner, and then there'd be lots of spaces for sorting things. And then also right here where we bag, which you'll see later, that whole space needed to have enough room for a lot of people to move around it. So if you draw little diagrams about where your people are actually going to move, it'll make your life a lot easier. And it's actually worked really well. We can get 5 or 6 people in here and nobody's bumping over each other. Eventually we want to put a water system in that's not a hose running through, because we do trip over that occasionally, but other than that, it's pretty good. And let's see, what else about this space? Lighting is really important too, so we thought about that, and could even use more lighting, but that's why we painted all the plywood white, is just to allow more light to get in. And then of course, where you're going to store stuff. So and also we built just really simple little plywood benches so that we could put heavy totes down on them, so that you weren't leaning over to lift things in. So you just think about a little bit of ergonomics and made sure there was enough space here to actually fit a tote in. And then we just did like real basic pipes to drain all the water out, and just it just runs it with a, I forget what that black pipe is, he'll know. The pipe that takes the water away from the space, so there isn't, you're not standing in a ton of water. And then we put Typar down here and just some regular gravel. You know, it's a little bit cleaner. We could put more down now that's sort of wearing out as the season goes on. But we use a squeegee to clean this. We hose it down at the end and then just squeegee the water off, and that works pretty well. So far so good. Pretty happy with it for the investment. Okay. So one of the things you should consider when you're designing a pack shed is how light is going to enter your building. Example, you do want some light to enter in, obviously, so you know have a nice working environment. But it's nice to have a lot of the openings to be north facing, so that there isn't a whole lot of hot summer sunshine streaming in. And that's kind of how we designed this. Although there are some spots that do get a little bit of light.
We start harvest each week, twice a week. We'll make up this sheet ahead of time where we have recorded what exactly we have left over from the previous week that either didn't sell at market or we over harvested or something. We have all our poundage and our numbers from the previous week that we want to use up first before they go bad. And then from that we look at what our goals would be for the week and we include what we have left over. And then from there we calculate what we need to harvest new to make up our totals for the week. And we have each veggie in a separate row here, and then columns denoting what's left over, what's new, and then what our totals should be for the week and what our profit should be for the week based on those numbers. That's all.
Anna, awesome Anna.
Hi, Anna.
All right, so I'm Anna, and we're gonna talk a bit about how we label our totes here and organize in our cooler. So we find that it saves a ton of time if we write the label of what's in our tote, what the produce is, the specific item, and also the weight, because we split up our salad mixes and do all the math beforehand, so we know how much weight is going into each mix. And it saves a ton of time of running back and forth to the scale, to the cooler, if we just write that weight on there from the beginning. So we know what the ingredient is, and we know how much is in the tote. So here we know it's going to be our spicy salad mix, and this is our red butterhead lettuce. And I know that this is 5 pounds in here. And we actually just started writing on the side of our totes, so this way we can have our totes stacked in the cooler and read the labels without having to take the stacks apart. So we know it's our spicy mix. The ingredient is red butterhead lettuce, and it's 5 pounds.
Great penmanship.
Oh, thank you. And here, same deal, but this is our mild salad mix. And then we write the ingredient, red head. And my pen is getting old, but this is 7 pounds.
What kind of pens are you using?
These are chalk markers, chalk ink markers. So they're pretty, well, this is not a very great example, but they're usually pretty easy to read, and we can just very quickly clean them off with a towel and a bit of, even just water will do it. So,
They're a bit better than regular chalk. Regular chalk will smear off a little easier.
Exactly, yeah.
But, oil pastels work really well.
And then we store all of our produce in our walk-in cooler here. And we typically organize the cooler based on what salad mix we're working with. We'll put all of our ingredients for one salad mix in a stack, and then all of the ingredients for another in a different stack, and then any other random root vegetables. We'll each keep them in a certain section of the cooler, and that helps a lot with saving time, so we're not constantly shuffling everything around. Organization saves so much time. They might be covered up, but we do have some labels on the wall saying this is where we put our salad mix, this is where we put our spicy salad mix, and here's where we put root vegetables.
Newest addition to our pack shed this year. This is our greens bubbler, and it's a 100-gallon stock tank that I got from Kenai Feed. I found that price to be a whole lot better than a lot of other places. And what we've got in here are some 2-inch PVC pipes that have been drilled with holes in various different spots. So, and they're not glued together, they're loosely fit together. And then we have a jacuzzi bubbler on the top here. And what it basically does once it's filled up is it aerates the greens. So we put all of our greens into here, and you'll see that later. And then we turn this on, and because the PVC pipe is lifted a little bit from the bottom, it allows all the sediment and debris to fall down below the PVC pipe. So it's a really easy way to clean our greens. The other really great thing about this is that we can mix an entire batch in here instead of washing a batch of mustard and then washing a batch of greens, and then you're waiting until everything is ready to mix together to be able to bag it. This way it's all mixed and cleaned in here, and then we dry it and then we bag it, so the baggers aren't waiting. So it's a much more efficient system. So we'll fill this up and then you'll be able to see it in action.
So Craig, it looks like you made it so it all comes apart easy,
Yeah,
so for cleaning.
cleaning, yeah.
And so you made letters on each connection so they know how it goes right back
That's
together.
it.
That was me after the first time I took it apart and stood there and went, how the heck does this go back together? Yes.
Excellent.
So and we already pulled the tote.
And it looks like 3/16 holes in the pipe there?
Yeah, they were about, they were 3/16 roughly. You know, you can make them smaller or bigger depending on the vigorousness of the,
Do you find that you adjust the airflow on the jacuzzi?
not too
pump?
much. I don't
Not
think
much. Wide
we
open is
really
good.
ever used it, just wide open.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
especially if you're mixing greens.
yeah.
Are we ready to make a mix?
Yeah, Miles is ready to
You guys want to see a mix go together? So Anna's going to put a whole bunch of different ingredients in, and she's weighed everything out beforehand. So we've got lots of different parts and pieces to our mixes. Like this is we call this the red head, the head leaf lettuce. And so she's pre-weighed it so she knows how much is going in this batch and how much is going in a different batch. And she's going to put all that in there, and then she's going to put a bunch of other ingredients in too.
We had this in a certain section of the cooler, so it was already all together, and we didn't have to go searching for it. All of these ingredients were in a stack, ready to go for this particular mix.
So that's got some baby red Russian kale and some red frilly salanova. And then this is the green frills, which is pretty hardy, and you can get a lot of cuts off of it. It's one of the biggest producers of our lettuce mixes. It's got a nice mild flavor. So she's probably putting like half of that tote goes in, and then half will be held for another mix. All right, and then where's Liam?
I know.
So we actually will go in with gloves and sort of help it mix. So it's like a jacuzzi for your greens, right? The idea is when it comes out of here, it should be completely mixed, clean, ready to go in the bag. Just needs to be dry. And so this is a control, so when it's on full, like it is right now, you're getting the maximum amount of air, and these greens are all super hardy, they can handle it. But some stuff like arugula or some of the Asian greens need a lighter bubble. So this will allow you to turn down the amount of air that's bubbling in there. And so then we have the super salad spinner. All of these, both of these, we didn't invent them. These came from Michael Kilpatrick had some plans. I'm not sure if he's the original guy, but you can find him on YouTube. And anyways, he came up with the designs for these, and he sells those plans. This is just a washing machine that's been retrofitted, and we put a on-off switch on it. It doesn't. 90% of the mechanics of the washing machine don't have to work. The only thing that has to work is the spinning mechanism. So probably 2/3 of the washing machines you find in a recycling area at your landfill will probably work for that. And so this is just a 10-gallon Brute Rubbermaid garbage can that we drilled holes in. So all the salad stays in this. It doesn't go into the washing machine at all. So we put that in there, and then we turn it on, and it's just a salad spinner. I mean, that's all it is, except for we don't have to spin it, and it's a game changer when it comes to other farmers I know who spin their stuff by hand. Really wish they had this, and it really didn't take that long to make. So then our process is we then put all this into another large, I'm not sure what the size of this is, but just something where it can all go, and then people can bag straight out of there. What? Oh, okay. Cut there for right now.
Well, once we've bubbled the greens and spun them, dried them out, we put them into this nice big tote, and depending on the day, we'll get a couple people going at this, but it's a quiet day, it's a Tuesday, and we just have a small market tomorrow. So we have these bags here, and we're filling the bags to be about 1/2 pound. And we kind of leave a little room for air, you know, plus or minus like 0.02 on either side. So once you've filled it up, and check the weight, that's fine. I'll leave it, that's good. And I usually push them down so there's a bit of air in there. Spin it, and then this will seal it. It's a nice gizmo. And then we put stickers on it. So they say Homer Hilltop Farm, the type of salad mix, the ingredients, and how much it weighs, as well as the date it was packed. So those are all just things that we tell the customer so they know where, when, and how. And you just keep doing it. Is the mustard, and the mustard gets put into the spicy mix of salad greens that get bagged up and sold in 1/2 pound. And so the mustard will seed a whole row of it, and this is pretty small. Usually it's a little bigger, but this is what we got, and it's really nice and tender and spicy. But we harvest it with a quick greens cutter, and in doing so, we sometimes pick up, for instance, chickweed or horsetail or grass. And so what I'm doing right now, which is kind of why my eyes are a little bugged out, is I'm sorting through to make sure that we only have mustard in the end and that everything else gets sorted out. And yeah, this will all get mixed in with some other varieties of greens in the end. And again, so we use the bubbler, we use the spinner, and there's a whole process, but this is just to get a clean product before we start mixing things in.
Do you pick it into cold water or
Nope, it just goes
dry in the tote?
dry in the tote, and then once it's harvested, it goes into the cooler, or we just start sorting depending on what the flow of the day goes. But yeah.
When we were hosing down our roots, we created a lot of dirt in the pack shed, and so we designed this instead. This was actually used to be in our pack shed. When we redesigned it, we moved it outside here, and it just allows all that dirt and debris from your hosing down your carrots or beets or whatever to stay outside, and you don't have to clean up afterwards. So we just spread things out and spray them and with a high pressure hose, and then they can even sit here to dry for a little bit. And when you're done, you can undo the this chain and drop this down. That was actually a Curtis Stone design from YouTube, which is an awesome person to follow for pack sheds of this size, because he's an urban farmer, but his scale is small like ours. When you look at some of these bigger farms that are, 5 or 6 acres of agricultural production, their pack sheds are like way beyond what we're going to need here for our season. So Curtis is nice because his scale is appropriate to what we're doing. And he came up with this idea. I think he's since come up with a different table that actually spins, but the whole idea is it's easier to clean. These kinds of mesh tables can be kind of hard to clean off. And so if you can just flop it down, it just dumps all the debris off right away.
Whenever you want.
Okay, so this is, we've got 2 sinks, and we can fill them up with water and get the field heat out of things like chard or clean them. We also submerge our cauliflower, not so much the broccoli, but the cauliflower and maybe cabbages, especially Napa cabbages, because then we can find the slugs, which is a really big deal. So these are just 2 garage sinks from Home Depot, super simple, and we made a little stand for them to sit in. Nothing too high tech about that. And then the idea is after you get your chard, we actually have a custom flinging method that happens out there to get the water off the chard. But then they can sit out here on this table to dry. We also use this table to spray off things like maybe the bottoms of a Napa cabbage or head lettuces, bok choy, trying to think what all else. But anyway, all it is just a 2x4 construction with a mesh top on it. And then this is just construction grade plastic at an angle so the water funnels out and down the and out of the pack shed. It's a little bit hard to clean. Maybe there's a better way to do it so that it's easier to clean, but it works pretty well.
So, in small scale farming like this, there's a lot of just ergonomic ideas that just make everything easier, faster, more efficient. Easier in your body is a big thing. So, for instance, and it's so small you don't always think about it. For instance, like these tables that you're working at, you wouldn't necessarily eat at a table at this height, but it goes up to my waist. I'm not a very tall person particularly, but generally you think about the way you want to work when you stand. You want to stand upright, you don't want to be hunched. So every little thing is kind of sized to the job that you want to be doing. And so these are raised a bit, these here are raised, and everything is just kind of at the right height for the job you're doing. And you just got to think about all those little details. But for instance, something like this that's holding totes, you don't want it way up here because you're lifting something up really heavy. So it's helpful to have things you got to think about the job you want to do and how you can help yourself do it. And every little detail helps.
Whenever you want.
One of the things I did this year was getting quick connectors for all of our hoses, and I can't even tell you how much easier it is to just click something like this in, or if you're moving a hose around to just do this over tightening and loosening something, especially since you can set these connections up nice and tight. If you are going out into the field and you're putting 2 hoses together, half the time you need some wrenches or something like that to really get them not leaking. This, you eliminate that whole problem. And they were on Amazon. I'll probably wind up upgrading these guys to something a little better because the material on these is a little Okay, so this nozzle was a Christmas present, so I don't know all the specs on it, but it's the one that Jean-Martin Fortier recommends and uses. A lot of market gardeners use it. So the really great thing about this is it produces a pretty powerful stream and also a really easy to adjust the flow. We used to use, nozzles like this where you can adjust the flow by spinning this, but that's a whole lot of action, and also every time you go to turn it off, you have to spin it closed and spin it open. And those little things, it sounds like they're nitpicky to think about something like that, but trust me, it actually is something that you should think about. So this nozzle, when you just activate it very slightly, it produces a really nice fine mist. And then when you push it in further, this is like for cleaning your root crops, you get it all the way down. And it's pretty excellent. This is hooked up to the water pressure from my house, which is limited. But when we hook it up to the water pressure from our tanks from our irrigation system, it can shoot a stream halfway across this area here. It's pretty amazingly epic, and you actually have to be a little bit careful because you'll wind up over cleaning your carrots and roots and stuff like that. But that someday a pressure tank that sets this to the right pressure is on the list. But super excellent tool, and obviously you can flip this up just to have it. You don't have to hold it. Then you can fill things up. But pretty awesome. So these are the labels that we make for our greens, and I use a thermal printer instead of a inkjet printer, because then if the bags get wet, which they inevitably do, moving in and out of coolers and all that sort of stuff, there's no ink to run. So they only print in black and white, so you got to get a little bit creative with your design, but they can get all the information on there, and certainly super low cost. I don't have to ever buy ink cartridges. These particular stickers, you can buy the brand, or you can buy the off-brand. So far, these off-brand are a little less sticky than the brand ones. So I'm kind of on the fence about whether I'll do that again. And they print out in a super long roll. So if you're printing out 100 labels, you wind up with this rather crazy spaghetti of labels at the end. But that's a good thing for the kids to clean up for you.
Would they do UPC labels too if you wanted them to?
Yeah, they have all different sizes. You can get, labels that are small like that for mailing, and just about any size labels you can do with that thing. Okay, so there's lots of different harvesting techniques that we use on the farm. Sometimes we're just snapping off the kale straight from the stalk and making bunches. Sometimes we're using a quick cut greens harvester to mow down things that are direct seeded into the ground. And sometimes we're using a knife to cut head lettuces and other products.
Donna Rae from Oceanside Farms in Homer want to thank Hilltop Farms and Callie for their support of this interview video and funding supplied by the USDA 2501 program. Happy growing!